once again. This is Nuance, and I am Mike Scala. We'll be speaking about where the guns used to commit crimes in New York are originating in the wake of yet another school shooting. Of course, I'm joined, as always, by Jay Carter, also known as Timid, the hip hop artist in the chair of BLM Tokyo. What's going on, Jay?
Ah, what's going on? Indeed, another school shooting. It's crazy. Just thinking about it is crazy. So
Yeah, it seems like a uniquely American phenomenon for the most part right now.
it is uniquely an American phenomenon.
I saw that
Yeah.
you posted, I guess, reposted about the Japanese rapper making the gun motion.
Oh, right. Yeah, because yeah, there is no there was it a TikTok video where a girl was saying, yeah, Japanese rappers doing this in their songs. Like, why are you doing that? We have gun control. What do you do? And it's
Yeah.
true, like
It's a
nobody
metaphor.
has guns out here.
It was a cute TikTok, but I mean, I'm guessing it's a metaphor talking about, bringing the aggression lyrically, son.
Be what?
No, I mean, I'm guessing that when the rapper did that, it was meant as a metaphor for I'm bringing the heat, right? I'm killing y'all lyrically out here.
Nah, it's more than likely it's just they're imitating what they're seeing.
Hmm.
Um, and so that's where it's coming from. They're
Yeah,
just
but when
imitating.
an American rapper does it, that's typically what it means, right? It's like I'm bringing the heat.
Yeah, but they're also talking about, they also might have guns or this in the States. They might have their guns or all this and that. You know, Out here there's definitely no guns. You don't have any guns. They
Yeah,
don't even really fight out here. Like it's
but people will say, well, the guns don't kill people. In Japan, they're probably committing mass attacks with samurai swords.
not really. It's just not. So not saying that there's no people killing people, but it's just like it's not even like that. So that's what's funny about that is like they're imitating things that they definitely don't do. It doesn't even go on like that out here.
Hmm.
Not even like the idea of like, oh, you're a studio gangster and you're just doing that. Like it just doesn't even happen in the streets out here like
Right,
that.
right. It's a different culture.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not, yeah, it's kind of funny in that way. So I thought it was amusing.
All right. Well, speaking of amusing, I randomly received a call from the New York Post last week.
Okay.
Who don't know, the Post is one of our major New York papers. Really, it's a national paper, right? It's one of those papers where if you go outside New York, you'll see the New York Times and the Post, sometimes the Daily News or whatever. It's one of those, but it's known for being more on the political right. So you
Mm,
sometimes you'll see some inflammatory headlines from them going after Democrats or whatever.
right.
So when you get a call from them, you wonder what it's about. Are they going to try to make you look bad, right? Like what is their angle here?
Right.
So this was about quality of life in Howard Beach. In particular, it was about the animal sacrifices that we've been seeing by Charles Park and by the Bay in general.
It's
And
been happening for a couple of years. We've talked
happening
about
for,
this.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
many years, many, really generations now, right? And I get frustrated because, as I told the reporter, I've tried to do something about this. Obviously, one person isn't going to completely solve the problem, not overnight, at least, right? It's going to take years. I said part of my efforts have included bringing in some of the folks from the Hindu community, especially the younger generation who doesn't believe in that, right? And not just with the animal sacrifice, but the littering, right? Because you'll see the relics, what do you call those, statues or whatever that they'll put. They believe that they are gods or embodiments of gods, but
Right.
they're really plastic, often statues that aren't biodegradable and really amount to litter, right?
Right.
The religious meaning out of it, it's a piece of plastic you're dumping in the water. So the younger generation doesn't believe in all that so much, and they're taking the stance that respecting Mother Earth is actually part of the religion. And so when you litter, when you pollute, and when you do these things, you're actually not respecting the religion. And so that requires a generational shift. That isn't something that happens automatically. I think it
Right.
is kind of maybe slowly, incrementally throughout the years. And unfortunately, I think it's a matter of some of the older people who are more stubborn, who aren't going to change, dying out, and the younger people coming in. Hopefully, the younger people can educate some people along the way. But it isn't as clean as people want it to be. I get frustrated because people will sometimes attack me for it. And I don't know if they're doing that to score political points and they're not being sincere with their attacks. But sometimes they'll say, oh, we saw another ritual happen, or were remnants of this ritual, evidence of this ritual at the beach. I thought Mike supposedly fixed all that. I guess that Zoom call was for nothing, huh, Mike? And I was like, that's crazy. Like, I'm out here actually trying to do something, and now
Right.
you place the blame on me anytime there's any incident ever. When what is everyone else doing? I mean, I think it's up to everyone to try to do their part. And instead of pointing fingers, like one person hasn't magically solved the whole thing on his own, why don't we all contribute collectively to the issue and try to make it better?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
That does annoy, right? But
Yeah.
so I had the conversation with the reporter. I mentioned some of the cleanups that I've organized. He was pretty inquisitive about it, and he's asking, what do you normally see when you do the cleanups? What do you find out there? And so, to be honest with you, most of the time it's ordinary trash. Most of the time it's not connected to religious rituals, right? You're doing these cleanups and you'll see a lot of candy wrappers and things like that. And I think most of it is actually people fishing on the bridge, or, whatever, just dumping a candy wrapper out the window or off the bridge, or, and then it just ends up in the bay and at some point washes up on the beach. So when you're cleaning the beach, that's what you're getting, all this junk that washes up, right, from people littering. I think
Right.
that's
Right.
a lot of it. But then you did see oftentimes statues, these plastic statues that were representative of Hindu gods, right, that they put in there. I think when they're putting them in there, they're going out into the water a little bit, probably putting them in the water and leaving them, but not realizing or not thinking about the fact that eventually that's going to wash up and find itself back on the beach.
Right.
So there's that. Then sometimes you'll see dried up fruit. That's part of these rituals, I think. I personally, during the cleanups, never saw the animals, right? But sometimes you'll see on Facebook, someone will be out there and they'll discover an animal carcass, right? A pig or whatever, and they'll take pictures of it and put it online. So I've seen that, and that's obviously disgusting in itself. But not so he asked me, he said, did you actually witness that with your own eyes? I said, I can't say that I have, but I've seen pictures of it online when people post it.
Where would you even get a pig or a goat for sacrifice?
I guess you go to a butcher.
Yeah, but they won't have a live. They'll have the
Well,
carcass.
they do have them live because they slaughter them there, don't they?
Don't butchers just take in it didn't it slaughtered somewhere else at slaughterhouses and the
Okay, a
butchers just
slaughterhouse.
carve it up?
Well, it's a slaughterhouse. Don't they have butchers at the slaughterhouse that kill them and then cut up the meat?
Yeah, but like not your local slaughterhouse, not your local
Not
butcher.
your local slaughterhouse.
Not your local butcher. Like it's they just take in the meat and then they carve it up at the butcher shop. Like I don't think it's like the old days where like they would just have like a stable of animals there and they just kill them and do all of that
But
because
at
there's a
certain,
lot more
right,
involved. There's
there is a place where these animals are and they're being killed there.
yeah, but like who can just go in there and just like buy a live animal from them?
I'm sure enough
I
money.
don't know. That's yeah. That's intriguing to me. Like, where do you even get? I wouldn't even know where to start to get an
Yeah,
animal for sacrifice.
yeah. I mean, with farms, can you buy them off a farm?
I,
They're pigs and chickens. They're gonna be used for food, right?
yeah, I suppose, but where are you gonna find that farm in New York City?
Well, we'll talk about the guns. You can drive upstate, drive somewhere else, and drive them back
I
down.
guess. I
But
suppose. I
I
guess if you're in the, I guess if you're in that practice, like you know where to get it. You've got the plug.
well, I'll tell you, when I was working in the Senate, someone came in to me. Did I mention the story before? Someone came in asking for me to help him change the law about poultry. He kept saying poultry, but he had the strong accent, and so it sounded like poetry to me. The way he was
Hmm.
saying, he's throwing an extra syllable in there, and so for the longest time, I thought he was saying he wanted to do poetry, and he couldn't do it because of the law. And I didn't understand. I was like, what do you mean because of the law? What law are you talking about? And he was saying that there's a law that you can't have live poetry within a certain number of feet from residential buildings.
Right.
And I was like, really? So that's crazy. So the people in the buildings have a law that you can't do a poetry reading there because it's going to disturb them or something. Like I'm thinking, like, are they reading the poems too loud? Like, what is this about? And after about a half an hour, I realized he wasn't saying poetry; he was saying poultry. And so
Right.
he was in his business. This was his business. He wanted to be able to have live poultry that he was going to slaughter close to residential property. So I mean, there are people who do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had the, I don't know, the displeasure, I suppose, of being around that. So when living in Hawaii, I was living in a place called Waipahu, and there's a lot of uh uh Filipinos in that city, right? Because there's in a lot of people come from different parts of the Pacific Rim, immigrate into Hawaii, and the Philippines is one of the bigger ones. And so like in that area, there was a lot of that, and it's common, especially people living in provinces, to have chickens and whatnot. And so I remember I was sleeping one night, one day, and woke up, eh, I think it was like in the morning, and I was smelling something, and right outside of my window, the neighbor was butchering a chicken.
Wow.
And, he had already cut, I guess he'd already cut the head off of it and had drained it, but now it was like boiling the water because you got to boil the feathers off it when you defeather it. So he was doing that, and but it was just right there right outside the window, and
This is
then
why you need Sheba on somebody because she'll probably be able to tell us more about what goes into defeathering and cleaning these birds and whatever. I know she's into cleaning the fish that get caught. Like she's more of a country gal, I guess, in that sense.
yeah, but it was just like, you know, it's not something that we come to expect in cities in the
Right,
United States, right? In
right.
other countries, in certain areas or rural areas, maybe, but not in a city or in a neighborhood in the United States. And so like that was kind of a shock to me in that way.
Yeah, yeah. And then there's also something called Santeria, right, which is not Hindu. It's a different thing entirely. And they were saying that they were, I guess, responsible for some of what you saw there.
Mm. So yeah, I guess if you're into whatever those things are, you know where to get those things.
Right, right. And from what I was told also, because I tried speaking with people in the Hindu community, for example, and I was told that most of the people who follow their religion aren't into that. They're not into animal
Right.
sacrifice and they're not into these
Right.
rituals, but some of the older people are. And then there are some sects that are, I guess, more old school, or like you might compare them to maybe like if you have Catholic church or the Christian religion, you have different denominations, right?
Right.
So there might be some denominations of the religion that are more old school and they still do that kind of thing, but some of the other ones don't. And so it just depends on the version that you practice, that you follow. And they said sometimes these priests, right, whatever their title is, will tell them they need to do that, uh, I guess, to get some kind of healing or get some kind of forgiveness or something that they're looking for from the higher power. So
Right.
they'll say they have this issue, this spiritual issue. Maybe it's a sickness, maybe they did something that they regret, whatever it is. And the person will say, well, if you want this taken care of, you must go down to the water and make the sacrifice or whatever.
Right.
So that's still a thing, right? We're obviously hoping that generationally becomes less of a thing. And again, it's not going to happen overnight or
Right.
even year to year. I mean, let's be honest. A year from now, it's not like this entire practice will be wiped off the face of the earth. It doesn't work that way. But you can
Right.
try
And
to chip away at it incrementally and still be proactive. And that's what I mentioned also to the reporter. I said, basically it's all of the above approach, right? Education is a big part of it, sure, but you don't stop at that.
Right.
It's also enforcement. And I went into, and this is where I thought, see, I started thinking maybe too much. I was thinking, is this where he's going to try to spin it to make me look bad? Because I was like, on the enforcement side, right? Obviously, we push to get more cameras and more signage and all that kind of stuff. I've personally been doing my part to educate local authorities that they have jurisdiction to be there, because sometimes what they'll say is this is federal land, right? It's because it's on the shore, it's a federal park. It's not within the purview of the NYPD. Sometimes you'll hear that. That's actually not entirely true. The NYPD is allowed to go in there if there's a crime happening. So is the National Park Police, right? They have what's called uh, uh, joint jurisdiction. Am I saying that right? Joint.
Sounds right to me.
There's a term for it. I don't know if it's joint jurisdiction or shared jurisdiction or concurrent. Maybe it's concurrent jurisdiction, but one of those. Basically, it means that they're both allowed to be there. It's not just one or the other. It's not like the cops have to stop at the entrance to the park and be like, we can't go in. We're not allowed. Like, you're allowed to go in and stop the person from committing a crime. But some of the people, believe it or not, who even work for the police forces don't know that. So
Right.
as an attorney, right, I've been doing my part to try to educate them on that. But one of the things that I proposed is they have something called a compendium, right, which is the rules of the parks. If you wanted to do a ceremony at the park, you have to get a license, a permit to do that, right? And so, for example, let's say you want to get married at the, on the beach. It's federal parkland. You want to have a whole wedding there. That counts as a ceremony, and you've got to fill out paperwork and get your permit from the city to do that, and from, in this case, from the National Park Service, right, the NPS. So that doesn't target your religious beliefs, because sometimes what you hear is that we're afraid to do anything because of First Amendment concerns. They're saying that they have freedom of religion and we don't want to get involved because we don't want to be accused of violating their First Amendment rights. Well, I talk about the wedding. You never alleged that requiring a permit for a wedding is a potential violation of their First Amendment rights. That's a religious ceremony, isn't it? Why is that? Right? Because it's not about targeting the religion. It's about the behavior, right? Congregating a group of people at the beach requires a permit because that could interfere with others' enjoyment of the beach and of the park at that time. And so they want to make sure that they know you're going to be there in those numbers on that day, and they can make the proper accommodations for you, right? And hold you accountable if something goes wrong. So likewise, they can require a permit for rituals. Now, I know some people are, because I brought this up before, people immediately say, how dare you give them permission to do this, right? The permission wouldn't be to litter or to do an animal sacrifice, to do anything illegal or unlawful. The permit would be simply to congregate a group of people in prayer or for any purpose at the beach. Now, that does a few things. Number one, it allows authorities to approach them while they're there, before they've done anything wrong necessarily, right? While they're just there to begin their ceremony, whatever they're going to do, and ask them, hey, do you guys have a permit? If they say no, the police can then tell them they must leave, and they can only come back with a permit, right? If they do have a permit, that allows them to be held accountable and traceable if they do something wrong, if they do end up littering, if they do commit an animal sacrifice, right? If they do something they're not supposed to be doing, well, now you know who they are because you have a permit. They filled out the paperwork. They put their names and their phone numbers and their contact. You can get them. So that is a way to have accountability. And as it stands now, police won't do anything, right? If you see a group of people and it looks like they're doing a religious ceremony at the beach, if you call the police, they're not going to try to break it up or even question them because they're like, they've got a right to be there. They're not violating any rules. They haven't done anything wrong yet. Now, if you see the animal that they're about to kill someone, that's a different story. But if you can't see that they're about to do anything unlawful, what are you going to do? There's no way you can hold them accountable. And then what ends up happening is the police won't get involved at all. And they'll end up doing what they're going to do wrong at the end, right? When they're about to leave, then they leave and you never see them again. So if you had this permit system in place, it would allow for that accountability. And like I said, police would be able to come right away and say, "All right, guys, I see you here for a ritual. You got your proper permits. All right, just so you know, you can't do this, you can't do that. We'll be watching." And so that provides that layer of enforcement that right now is non-existent.
Right. Yeah, see the point behind that. That would also kind of be if the cops can come up and just in the middle of it and just start doing that. I mean, they just be interrupting people peaceably assembling. Like I don't know.
Right, but if the rule is that you have to have a permit to have a group, we're not talking about just maybe one or two people. We're talking about if you have a group of people, and there could be a number, more than five, more than 10, whatever it is. You know,
What stops the cops from just coming up and being a nuisance if you know, say 6 or 7 of us got together and decided we wanted to go hang out on the beach?
well, it depends on what the number was that we put in the compendium.
Yeah, I mean, let's say it's 5.
Uh-huh. And it says for a ritual, we would say this is not a religious ritual. That ain't, it's not any ritual. It's at the beach.
Yeah, but I mean, it still means it's a touch point with police. Like, why would they even come up and say, like, if people are just hanging out?
Because you want to be proactive. Otherwise, there's no way to catch them in the act or hold
Yeah,
them.
but I think what that does is it puts a an air of suspicion on just regular people going to the beach, doing regular people things at the beach.
If you got married at the beach, you would need a permit.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like,
It's
yeah.
not regular people things to have a whole religious ritual going on the shore.
No, it's not. But for people not doing rituals on the shore that are gathered in groups and
Mm.
just hanging out at the beach in the public and the community that they're from, like having
Yeah,
police
maybe
come
someone will have
in
to
and
call the cops on them, right? And you have to see.
yeah, that's yeah, cops getting involved is a tricky issue because it could go so many different ways for people just trying to enjoy their day.
Right, but what's the
I think the
alternative?
education to me the
More animal
education
sacrifices, more more littering. I mean, you got to be able to do something to catch people in the act and hold them accountable, right? And not just be like, oh, well, they did it when they were leaving, and we couldn't question them the whole time they were there, and we couldn't keep an eye on them because we were afraid of being accused of violating the First Amendment rights. There's no rule saying that they can't be there doing that. So there really should be, if they're going to do a religious ritual, to me, it should require a permit. This way that you can ensure
I
that
get that.
they're doing it the right way. They're not doing it illegally, right? They're
I
not,
get that.
because we don't want to say that they can't practice their religion at the beach. Yes, they have a First Amendment right to do that, but there are religiously neutral restrictions, right? Time, place, and manner restrictions that you can put in place to provide the proper oversight and accountability. Right now, there's none. There are
No,
cameras, and look, cameras are better than no cameras, right? But it doesn't get the job done by itself.
no, I get that. I get that. It just there are more people not doing these rituals than there are people doing these rituals, which means that there are going to be more interactions with police interfering with people just going about their day in order to catch the small minority of people who may be doing these things. And so it's quite a
You
can be
only
quite a disruption.
it's not like the police would be there just stopping everyone who's at the beach, right? It's
But
like,
they'd have the ability to if they wanted to.
well, no, you would have to have reasonable suspicion. You would need to have a cop, someone call the cop saying, "Hey, there's a group of like 20 people praying on the shore," or something like that. It could be just like, "Oh, they're there playing catch. Let's go." So, what I mean? That wouldn't be allowed.
Yeah, I'm suspicious of anything that gets cops involved with people doing their regular day, especially because it has such a penchant to go left with people
Right.
of color.
But you're saying doing their regular day, and this wouldn't include doing their regular day. This would be for rituals.
Yeah, but you wouldn't necessarily know, or someone
It could,
with malintent could say, you know what, I'm calling the cops and they are doing a ritual, even if they're
that could
not.
happen. Sure, that could happen.
So
But if that were abused, then you would lose that privilege, right, of being able to catch people. So people have to figure out what's more important to them: harassing random strangers or actually solving a problem.
to me, I think since it's such a minority thing, I think harassing random strangers is more the point that you want to avoid versus catching the few people that are doing this
Well,
way.
it's not a few though. Unfortunately, it's happening way too many times. I mean, if this was your beach, your park, and you saw dead, you try to take a kid to the park or whatever,
Oh yeah, that would suck.
dead animals, right? Your
That would
carcass is
suck.
slaughtered and just left there rotting away or whatever. Yeah, not to mention all the litter and everything else. It's, it really is a problem. Like we said, it's been going on for generations.
Yeah,
And
yeah, no, that would suck.
see what I thought was going to happen, and this was me probably being maybe paranoid and overthinking it. When I said my idea for the permits, and I said, to be clear, this wouldn't be giving them permission to litter. It would be quite the contrary. It would be holding them accountable if they did, or if they did do something unlawful. I thought if they wanted to try to spin that to make me look bad, they would basically write a whole story in a post about these animal sacrifices going on and what people are trying to do to stop, or how people are mortified by it. And then by
And
the time they got
Scala
to
wants
me,
to give them permits to do
Scala,
it.
yeah, Scala wants to create a permit system to allow people to do their rituals. Right? That's what I thought, and leave out the whole.
No, they won't say they allow people to do the ritual. They'll say Scala wants to create a permit system to allow them to commit animal sacrifices.
That would be really
Yeah,
crazy. But yeah,
yeah. That's how some of these places, how they write sometimes. They go to the most
yeah,
sensational part of it
right.
and
But they gotta
say,
be
yeah,
careful. They know they're dealing with an attorney, so they gotta be a little bit more careful. But
right.
try to go as far as they can sometimes without crossing the line. And but no, actually, I wasn't even quoted at all in the article. I think he was just collecting information, and he ended up using, I think, some of the information that I gave him. So I give this guy credit, right?
Wow, some actual journalism from the
Yeah,
Post.
this actually seemed to be some legit journalism. I applaud the reporter for that. And actually, I looked up the reporter. He had worked for the New York Times before, so I don't know his personal political leanings, but he worked for the Times and for the Post, and did seem to write a legit story and care about getting the facts right in this. And it wasn't as far as I was able to tell, it wasn't a sensational piece of journalism meant to make anyone look bad necessarily. It was just about the topic at hand, and letting people know what's going on.
Right. Times must be hard if he's working at the Post and the Times.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I guess some
Right.
people, if they want to look at it cynically, would be like, it's typical for the Post to cover this type of story because
Right.
it's like negative, I guess, negative quality life. But at the same time, it is something that people are dealing with here in Howard Beach. It is a legitimate issue, right? So I don't want to sound like I'm delegitimizing the issue, right? It is
Right.
a thing, and it needs to be dealt with.
Right.
But I can see that. Look, if you're really being a cynic, look at the Post putting out this story about uh, you know people of color practicing their religion and it's causing a problem or whatever.
Yeah. Well, just as long as they don't point that, yeah, twist your words and whatnot. But it sounds like they didn't, so that's good.
Right, right. So there you go, a random call from the Post, and the reporter also was watching some of the Zooms. I don't know if you watched the Nuance episodes. You might have. You definitely mentioned the earlier one I did before we started doing Nuance, where we brought in Aminto, who's on here before, and some others, and we had the discussion about what was going on because we were trying to get to the bottom of the issue and what could we do collaboratively as a community to work on it, and how can we bring in. Right now, it's a little bit of I guess, a controversial thing at the time for me to bring
Right.
on members of the Hindu community to talk about it, but I thought that was important, right? How can we
Yeah,
all
absolutely.
come together on this? So
Absolutely.
some of the comments were funny back then. I remember, so because it was during COVID, this popular Zoom that happened, right? It was during COVID, and so that was back when everyone was just at home watching Zoom meetings all the time or being in Zoom meetings, right? It was like kind of the culture of the day, and
Right.
so somebody commented something like, Mike made us sit and watch the Zoom, and then a month later, 2 months, whatever it was, there was another incident, but he made us watch the Zoom for nothing. Like, what do you mean I made you watch the Zoom? You could have done anything. You chose to watch the Zoom, and I thank you for it, but I didn't make you do anything.
Shout out to the chat. Got a question. You guys ready for the debate tonight?
Yes,
Absolutely.
as soon as we log off here, I'm going to go to a debate watch party, and I encourage those participating in the debate to drink responsibly. I did
Wait,
see.
for those participants, so Harris and Trump, you encourage them to drink responsibly while they're on stage?
Those involved in debate watch events or socializations or what have you, because I know people make it a cultural moment.
A social event type of thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Take
Please.
a drink every time Trump lies.
Yeah, careful. You'll get alcohol poisoning real quick.
Yeah.
So,
And every time Harris laughs funny.
Oh, she cackles. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
really good.
that's, I'm going to be looking at that. All jokes aside, I'm going to be watching style almost
Mm,
as much, if not more than substance, because we know for the most part where they stand on issues and how they're going to answer these questions. To me, I'm looking to see attitude, especially from Harris, right? How is she going to handle Trump's lies, for example? We know what
right.
he's going to say. What's her reaction going to be? Is she going to maintain that joy? Is she going to laugh? Is she going to be solemn about it? Is she going to be aggressive? Fight, like a prosecutor would be like really hammering him on the issues, or is she going to
Yeah.
be effective? I'm curious to see what her disposition is going to be.
What Harris do you want to see show up? Do you want like DA Harris to show up, or do you want like this a little bit more relaxed, jovial type of Harris?
I think it depends on the situation. It depends on what he's saying, because there's a danger in her coming off as too lighthearted if he is saying something that has a lot of gravity to it, right? If he's really saying something dangerous, or if he's really lying about something, really, really solid, really, really serious, for her to just laugh about it at a certain point, like I get the strategy in general, right? You kind of bringing a joy back, and you're making him look like the weirdo loser, and you're kind of like
Right.
laughing at his ridiculousness, right? But at a certain point, I think you've got to respond with the appropriate level of seriousness and not look like you're just not taking things seriously, I guess, right? Like if you can't laugh at everything, you can't just laugh off everything, right? At a certain point, I think you
Right.
can get a little bit more serious, a little bit more focused. um, and I think that's something that she might be struggling with in general. Maybe she's rehearsed for it. I don't know. But I saw a clip recently of her, for example, laughing so much about the Starbucks cup. Have you seen this clip?
No.
It, yeah, someone was posting it before, and it was about, I don't know, I forget, I don't know which crowd she was talking to, but she was saying that she gets Starbucks a lot, and the lids are white, and sometimes she'll be the only woman in a meeting, so she's wearing lipstick, and she gets embarrassed that the cup now has her red lipstick on it or whatever, and so she went to Starbucks and she asked them if they can change the color of the lid so that women wouldn't be so embarrassed, something like that. But she was laughing so much at it, it kind of made her look bad. It just it didn't make her look presidential, I guess. She was like
Mm.
giggling and like just it was like she was like hysterical laughing about the whole thing. And I'm like, what is the point? First of all, why are you wasting your time, giving a 5-minute speech about Starbucks lids? But
She's
also,
trying to become relatable.
I guess, but also, why are you just laughing hysterically so much, cackling, laughing? Like it's I don't know. I think maybe she's overplaying that hand, like she's trying to come off as too easygoing when this is a pretty serious election.
Right. I think that's probably part of, her, like I said, trying to be more relatable because she doesn't come off like that generally.
Yeah.
And so she's trying to like, be a little bit better, but it just comes off as disingenuous. It comes off as forced a lot of the times. Um,
Yeah, I don't know if I got the impression that it was forced. Maybe for me, it was more like, why are you not taking running for president seriously? At a certain
well,
point, it's like she's making a joke about the whole thing. You know what I mean?
right. Well, I think, some of the stuff that came out recently was some of the staffers
Mm-hmm.
that have worked with her are critical, and some of the statements came out and it got backlash when they said like basically that it's stressful to try to what's going on here? I'm trying to pull it up, but it's for some reason my browser's freaking out. But they're saying it's stressful to try to brief her because she's already up on the information.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're kind of upset that she's meticulous and she's prepared because generally working with people, representatives, they get their updates from their staffers. They don't really do it themselves or do the reading. She's doing it. She's running it. They said like she runs it her office like it's the prosecutor's office, and she's too prepared. And so she expects them to be prepared, and so they're feeling stressed out because basically they have to be as prepared as she is.
But what does that have to do with her laughing about everything?
Well, that she's this serious. She's this
Oh,
hard nose. And so it's like she's
so he
trying
was trying to
to,
balance that out by looking more human.
yeah, something in that regard. I think that, that kind of is coming
To be
off.
honest, I like it for the most part, right? And I saw when she first came out, when she became the nominee, right? She first came out for her first appearances. She was more lighthearted than I expected her to be, and I actually liked that, right? I thought, okay, good. Finally, you can bring some charisma into this and a little bit of fun, right? Some spirit and uh, kind of provide that contrast, because when you watch the other side, they're always talking about how the whole world is burning and we're all going to hell in a handbasket. So for her to come on and provide that contrast and be smiles, you can smile once in a while, you can have some fun, you can bring on Coach Walls and talk about how he was the PTA guy, whatever, and like yeah, like you said, relatable, fun. Let's not
Right,
make this so doom and gloom and pessimistic, right? I did appreciate that. I was like, that's a good contrast in energy. And looking at, for example, the energy provided at the DNC convention versus the RNC, it was like, all right, I'd rather associate
starkly
myself.
different.
You're right. I'd rather associate myself with those DNC folks. They were having a better time and seem more optimistic about the country and really wants to come together and work, not make it like, super serious, but it is serious, but be able to kind of have a little bit of fun and just not be
Right,
so depressing all the time, right? So that
right,
was cool. Like let's be positive about where we're going as a country. Let's be proud of what we can be proud about and not focus on the negative stuff. I like that. But like I said, I think you have to find that balance also. You can't come off as just flippant or like you don't care, like like because
yeah,
at the end of the day, these are serious issues that we're talking about here, right?
very,
So
very. This is
bring
very
bring
serious.
that spirit to it, bring that fun to it, yes, but draw the line, right? Don't look like that's just a big joke.
Right. Yeah, I mean, especially when you factor in things like Project 2025,
Right.
it's
And that's what I'm saying,
it could
right? I
it
mean,
could
you wouldn't
easily be
want.
said that this is probably one of the most important presidential elections in modern history.
Yeah.
When you talk about Project 2025 ideology looming at the presidency level, this can be very, yeah, serious.
Right. And so imagine if something like that was a topic and she just cackles laughing in response. I mean, it wouldn't
Right.
really be appropriate. At a certain point, you have to,
Right.
right, say, no, come on, this is very serious. Let me tell you why.
I'm wondering, I kind of want I kind of want DA Harris on there as well, because he's going to lie through his teeth. He's going to twist facts. He's going to go off on tangents. I want someone who's there to go after him. I want someone there that's going to shut it down and make him really look like the feeble moron that he is. And that might be a little too intense for some people, I think.
It depends on how you do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
In the chat, also think she should do more interviews. People want to know more about her. Maybe that's why he might be gaining on her in the polls.
Yeah. And that was something that came out that obviously with him, people have seen enough,
Everything.
everything, right? And so
Too
no one,
much.
I think only 9%, which is actually a big number, but I think it was 9% that said we need to learn more about him before we make up our mind about him or something like that. But
Right,
it was like a third of the voters who wanted to know more, didn't
right,
think enough about her. And
right.
I want to make this point too. This maybe goes more to the relatable side, but is it just me, or did we used to learn a lot more about presidential candidates than we do now?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
For example, Bill Clinton, we knew all about how he grew up, and he was poor, and his father, stepfather, all that kind of stuff. Changed his name. We heard his whole life story growing up poor in Arkansas, right? Same thing with Obama. We knew all about mother
Right.
from Kansas, father from Kenya, and all this kind of stuff. First black president of the Harvard Law Review. We don't know about the history. We know all about his biography, right? Bush, even, I mean, obviously Bush's father was president, but we know all about that, and the Texas Rangers and his whole thing in the oil and all right, congressman, we know
Cocaine,
all those things.
cheerleading,
Kane, yeah, with the
the
POW stuff,
cheerleading and all. Yeah.
right? We knew all about that. What did we really know about Trump, Biden, or Harris, for that matter, aside from their professional exploits or political exploits? About even like Harris, do we still know a lot about how she grew up? I mean, we heard
Her,
she
we
was
don't know.
Oakland. We don't really know much about it. Okay, half Jamaican, half Indian, but what uh, what about her upbringing? I mean, what was it like growing up?
Right.
What did her parents do for a living? Do we really even hear about that kind of stuff?
For her, no. And I think that kind of speaks to what was brought up in the chat, that she should do more interviews, and because people need to know more about her. But I think with Trump and Biden, I think we pretty much know those guys. Biden, we don't know. I guess we don't know about his growth growing up. We know about
Right.
his history because he's been.
Been a
I mean,
public
he's.
figure for so long. Maybe that excused him from having to talk about his
But we also know
childhood.
he's the Amtrak
Right.
representative guy because he was known for riding the public
That's
trains
after
to.
he got into the Senate already.
But I
We
mean,
didn't
he's
really
been
hear a
doing this
whole
since
lot
the
about his
70s.
childhood. We didn't really. I just
Yeah.
saw a documentary on Biden recently. I think it was a PBS documentary or something like that when he stepped down, and
Right.
I learned so much more than I ever knew about the guy, about him growing up in Pennsylvania and the kind of stuff. And I was like,
Yeah.
wow. And his father was a businessman, and his father had money, and he really wasn't poor, but then he lost his job, something like that. But like you learn the whole story and the whole history, and in a much deeper way than we ever heard when he was running for president. When he was running for
True.
president, we heard, yeah, he was in the Senate, at 29 or whatever. I think he got elected to the Senate before he was legally able to serve, and yeah, we heard about that. But what about before that? What about their
True. 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 Yeah. I guess we don't know that part of his life. And with Trump, it's another. He's been a public figure for so long. Maybe that's where people don't go dig into his
yeah,
upbringing part as
yeah,
much. As
right,
much. But I think we do know some, but maybe there would be more,
yeah,
I
yeah,
guess.
yeah. I just feel like before we learned so much more about these presidential candidates, in particular what their early life was like, where they went to school and who their friends were, and that kind of stuff, how they grew up.
Does
Um,
it
does it matter?
does it matter at this with these guys?
I think it
Could
does.
it be that there's more of a the looming threat, the stakes could it be that they're so high that it's more about just getting this done than getting to know the candidates?
With many people, sure, but then you have 30% of people saying that they don't know enough about her. So I think that is an issue.
Right.
I would like to
Yeah.
know more about her. She's going to be president. I'm still
Yeah.
going to vote for her, but I still would like to know about her upbringing.
Yeah, she definitely should do some more just getting to know you type of thing so people can get more of a feel of who she is and where she's from, because not everyone's going to read her record or dig into her record. They're going to be looking at her, and these campaign speeches are only going to do so much.
Right,
And
right.
there's a lot of misinformation out there about her and her record.
And also, it's a way to humanize more because
Right,
if all we hear about is, well, she was a prosecutor, right? And then we know she was AG of California, and then she was a US Senator, and then Vice President. Okay, she has an impressive political resume, but that's
yeah,
not humanizing. That's good for
right,
sure. She has qualifications to be
right.
elected, right?
She
But we
went to an
want to,
HBCU. She was in a
yeah.
sorority. Those
And
things
let's
we
see
know.
pictures, right? You saw pictures of her in the yearbook, I think it was, where she.
Recently.
Right. Let's see more of that, though. Right. Let's see pictures
Right.
of her in college or in high school. Let's hear
Right.
from her high school classmates. Let's see documentary footage of the street she grew up on in Oakland or whatever.
Right. Right. Right.
Let's hear from her family more. I know that the Biden administration had an issue with her sister for trying to monetize some of the Harris swag, I guess. I think they were concerned about campaign finance violations potentially
Mm.
because she was selling the sister, Harris's sister was selling, I think, a book or merchandise with like Vice President Harris and me or something like that. And they were saying that basically these can be construed as political artifacts, and you're selling
Right.
them on a private website, and this could be a campaign finance issue. But she was just basically like, I don't care, my sister's about to be VP, I'm going to monetize this, I'm going to make some money off of this. And she was butting heads with with the Biden team over that, which I think
Right.
contributed to Biden and Harris not really seeing eye to eye when they were in the White House together, in spite of how they try to revise that history now. Right now, you'll see things like, oh, they were best friends, just like Obama and Joe were. They had lunch every day.
Yeah.
Nah, she was, from what I was told, she wasn't even allowed in the rooms most of the time when he was president, which ironically might have actually helped her in the end because it's harder now for Trump to tie her to Biden. He tries to, but she really does come off as this outsider candidate running against the incumbent Trump, right? Even though people say, well, but she's been vice president for the past 4 years. Yeah, but she's been locked out of the room. And so she hasn't really been involved in any of these projects. So it's like, what has she done as vice president? It's weird, right? In a weird way, I think Biden was trying to hurt her actually because he didn't want her to be. This is what I was told earlier on, right? When it looked like he was going to run again, he didn't want her to be seen as a better candidate than him going into the 2024 primaries. And so he was keeping her on the outside, not giving her things to do, not giving
There's
her.
a lot of this. Yeah, a lot of people speculated that she was being purposefully out of the spotlight, or put purposely kept out of the spotlight.
This is what I was told from people, yeah, close to them.
Yeah.
So So I think he was doing that to keep himself looking strong going into 2024 and not looking like, he should step aside for her, which he ended up doing. And in a weird way, I think it actually helped her, right? Because now she's coming out of it not as encumbered by his unpopularity.
And it's funny we're talking about like we don't know a lot about her. I didn't even realize she had a sister until like this
So
past
I,
month.
so I just said it now.
No, I knew that, but I mean,
Yeah,
like about a month
right,
ago was when I first
right.
realized she had a sister, because there's not a lot of human side of her.
Mhm.
There's the political side, the prosecutor side, that history.
Right.
Not a lot of
I was asking questions like, are her parents still alive? You know what I mean?
right.
Like, I guess not, but we should be hearing these things. We should be, I
So
don't know.
check this out. Why don't we, if you're on the Harris campaign, give us a call. We'll do this we'll do this little documentary style piece
Mhm.
on some of her background so she can get some more information out there.
Yeah, yeah.
Hit us
So,
up.
so here's a question then. Should she use tonight as an opportunity to humanize herself anymore? And in a way different from just laughing?
I don't know if she can
Oh, sure she can.
really.
You don't think so?
I mean, it's not really a place to get to know you because
Ah,
here's the thing with the debate is like
yeah,
she can put some personal anecdotes in there or some
right.
personal stories, but most people are gonna, I think, at least I will gloss over it as debate prep, right? This is not like real. This is debate prep. What I look for in this is what are your answers going to be and how do you deal with your opponent and how do you respond?
Mhm.
And I think that the humanizing part would be when, like in the chat, like some interviews, and some social media. Obama's team was amazing at that and getting him to be familiar to people, and just that type of thing. With the debate, I want to see her. I want to see her take, get blood. I want to see her, you
Okay.
know.
But when asked about an issue, like, what is your plan for such and such? I think it may
Oh,
be appropriate once in a while to throw in some story to make her answers seem relatable so that she's not just reciting drug
sure,
policy, right?
sure.
You can tie it in a genuine sounding way, right, to her background.
That's the trick.
Right,
That's the
right,
trick. The
right.
genuine sounding way.
Like maybe her sister struggled with something that she's going to be addressed, something like that. Like, and she can tell like a little
Right.
bit of a story about her family, about her, or people that she knows, or whatever, just to make her seem more human and more genuine. Then, of course, some people are going to say, well, is there a double standard because she's a woman and she's a woman of color? You want her to jump through more hurdles, and I'm sensitive to that criticism or that that awareness that could be a thing. But I don't think it should be an excuse either. I mean, I think that we still want her to do the same thing that other candidates
Sure.
of any background should be doing.
Right. Absolutely. And again, it's also part of it because we don't know a lot about her outside of her career. So, yeah, I'm looking for this to be, to me personally, I think this is a good chance for her to like just humiliate him, call him on his BS, set the record straight on some things. Because, like I said, when I watch it, I know that there's debate prep that goes into it. Maybe not for
Yeah.
Trump. I think he just goes in there and wings it. But most people go in
Yeah.
with
So,
like,
so from what has been reported, they've both been doing prep, but they've been prepping in a different way.
right,
From what I understand, he's been at Mar-a-Lago and he's just been answering questions about policy. So he's been doing it in a more general way, whereas
right,
she has been really rehearsing, and then she even had a stand-in for Trump, someone dressing like him, and she's been doing
right.
debates. I mean, she's really been, like running through the iterations of it to the point where I think, and maybe this is going to be a danger. I think she knows exactly how she's going to answer every question, and maybe she needs to be
A
careful
little bit more
of too
flexible.
rehearsed. Yeah,
Right,
because he is
right,
going to be more loose because he's not over prepping. She might be
right.
over prepping. We don't know until we see it, but that's a possibility that maybe she's doing too much or that she's going to come off as too rehearsed, whereas
Right.
the challenge is looking more human. And so she shouldn't be. I mean, if she's confident in her grasp on the issues, then she should
Right.
just speak and come off a little bit more relaxed. But, you know, it's
Obama was
like
good at that.
he got good at that. In the beginning, he was not good at that. In the beginning,
Mm,
he came off like a professor, and that was the big critique on him. He was too
mm,
professorial because he was talking about just straight up policy and
right.
right? He wasn't coming off as human, but he got better at that as he went. This is her first one-on-one debate, and I didn't think she did so great in the primary debates of 2020. Obviously, she attacked Joe very hard,
He
and
went at yeah, she
and
went at
that
Joe
and that
hard.
led probably to the dissension between them. I think he picked her for political purposes, but I think he never really liked her after that. So that was what she's really, I guess, most remembered for from those days. I didn't think that she did as well as she could have then. So we'll see how she performs. I'm wondering if there's almost too much pressure on her now, especially coming out of the bad debate that Biden had, right, in June. If everyone was like, "Oh, well, here comes Harris," she's gonna be like 1,000 times better than Biden, and if she's just 100 times better than Biden, it might not be good enough.
Right, right. So, well, we'll see. It's going down
Yeah,
tonight.
yeah. So here's
So,
something I wanted to bring up on this topic really quick. The New York Times has a headline: "There must be more than one debate. Harris and Trump need an encore." This came out today before the debate actually happened. They're calling for an encore before the show.
right.
The culture that
Yeah.
we find ourselves in now, and I get it. I want to see more debates too. All right, but can we do the first one? I mean, can we have the first debate before talking about how we need a sequel to the movie?
Right,
Right? I mean, this is like what you were saying recently. You put out a song and they're like, great, when's the next one coming out? Before they even listen to the song that you just put out. Like, can you
right.
take some time to digest this material for a minute, please? Let's not live
Yeah.
in this fast food world so much. Let's push back against that a little bit. Come on, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's we were gonna put the poll out around this one.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Okay, so we could do this speaking in the future, right? This is cool. We get
Yeah.
to actually time travel for this poll because
Right.
because the debate is going to start in an hour from now, actually. So by the time the poll comes out and we get the responses, it will have happened already. And so let's pretend that it happened already. And so the poll of the week is: who do you think won the presidential debate between Trump and Harris?
All right. Yeah.
All right.
We'll see
And
what that is
yeah,
about.
yeah.
And we had a poll last week as
Yes,
well.
yes, we did. How did that look?
Well, last week we were talking about the employer violations dashboard that the NYC comptroller put up, also known as the Wall of Shame, where he was listing companies that have violated certain worker rights and showing what they did and the results of it. So we asked the question, should local governments publish lists of unscrupulous activities by private employers? And the result was 96% yes,
Mm,
4% no.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's always funny when you have the government getting involved in private business, right? So you might expect some people to think, whoa, whoa, is it really their role to call out individual businesses as opposed to setting policy broadly, right? I understand that perspective. So I'm actually kind of a little bit surprised the number was that low. I thought maybe it'd be more like 80-20 or something like that.
well, it seems like I said, just like the numbers overwhelmingly positive. Some person just put basically yes. Another one says dirty restaurants are made public. Other forms of this type of stuff should be made public too.
Okay.
Um, Someone said this should be limited to illegal activities. Bringing them up because you don't like their policies, even if you're right, is a bad idea. That would be too Trumpish.
Hmm.
Now, I think I get what they're trying to say, but since the things, the restaurants, or not restaurants, but the businesses on the list, um, I don't think these were suspected violations. These were listed of, that they had paid out fines. They had
Right.
basically been to court already, so they're already found guilty of these.
Well, I think some of the concern though that we had was they included settlements in there.
Right.
Now, a settlement isn't necessarily an admission of liability, right? Sometimes you settle a case for financial purposes. You don't want to keep dragging out the
Or
lawsuit,
press purposes.
right? Paying lawyers, bad PR, whatever. So, oftentimes, an explicit term of the settlement will be, yeah, we're going to pay you this money, but on the condition that we are making it clear we are not admitting to this behavior. Right?
Right.
So, and I think I said last week, I think it's good to have this information out there, but it should be clear that, it is what it is. Some of it may be proven violations, yes. Some of it may just be settlements, and it's fine to report that if it's allowed to be reported, right? If the settlement isn't private, if it's public information, sure, put that out there. But I think
Right.
you should be clear in how you're categorizing it. If you say,
Right.
yes, just so you know, they paid $10 million in settlements over these claims. All right, maybe they should even have language in there, like a settlement is not necessarily an admission of liability, but they did settle, something like that. So people just are clear about what they're dealing with.
Right. Someone pointed out here, they said if the activities generated citations, fines, or other formal disciplinary actions, reports of those actions should be made easily available to the public. That seems like a clear parallel to things like restaurant inspections and OSHA violations and other
Yeah.
inspection enforcement actions that are public record.
Right, right. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. More transparency is good. Let's just make sure that we're labeling it correctly, right?
Right. One person is a little skeptical and they said this will be great as long as the good guys are in charge.
As long as the good guys are in charge. Well, that's subjective, commenter.
Right. That is subjective. So, yeah, I wonder what, I mean, if it's used to punish people that they're not really that whoever's in charge is not happy with or something like that, it could be a bad thing. Someone did say it should be a national web searchable database. Better yet, it should be indexable, searchable by executive as well. Um, these guys go from one firm to the next, wreaking havoc, and he made a word here, reaping havoc in their wake. He said these guys, mostly variable T mails, go from one firm to the next. I don't know what a variable T mail is. T is in quotation marks, the letter T.
T-mail. Is it testosterone? I don't know.
I, I, I don't know.
Like a bro, like an exec bro or something. Is that what it's going for? Like a frat
You
guy?
got me.
I don't know.
I'm
But
gonna have to find out that.
all right. Well, we appreciate everyone's feedback on that. I want to move this along here because we wanted to talk about the school shooting, but really in particular, an update on the guns, right? Because obviously, every time that there is a shooting, we hear the T's and P's, thoughts and prayers. But I think we as a population are becoming increasingly frustrated that action is not being taken, right? At a certain point, the words ring hollow when you don't back them up. And so we have
They've
pushed.
been ringing hollow for years.
Right, right. Every time something like this happens, we're like, here we go again. Are we ever going to get progress on this issue? Well, I guess here's some progress, right? And again, things happen incrementally. That's going to be the bottom line, Jay. Things happen incrementally. But some progress on the issue was a state of origin law that we advocated for. We got it in New York. And they are supposed to provide quarterly updates on where the guns are coming from, because we say that, look, we have gun violence in New York, and people will be quick to point that out. Well, if gun laws meant anything, then how come you have shootings in New York City, for example, or Chicago, or any of these places? And we like to say, well, let's take a look at where these guns are coming from to have actual data behind the idea of, are the gun laws effective or not. It's one thing to speculate. It's another to actually have real stats. So the state of origin law requires the New York State troopers to publish a quarterly gun report on where the guns are actually coming from that are recovered from crimes in New York. So we did pull up the most recent report that looks like, no, there should be one coming soon, because this one looks like it ended in March. So, right, January, February, and March. What about April, May, and June? Do we think that will be out by now? All right. But this was the most recent one that I found on the website. And this is also, by the way, part of the problem. And we experienced this last time also. It isn't easy to find these. You got to really do some digging to get to them. And I think this discourages people. I don't know if this is done intentionally or not, but the idea behind this law is to provide transparency and show everyone what's going on. But then if you bury it deep within your website and make you search for it for like 20 minutes,
Right.
it kind of defeats the purpose, right? You're not really giving that sunlight that you're supposed to be. But
Right. One shout out to the comptroller that that wall of shame is easily accessible and it's laid out pretty user friendly.
I thought you were going to say that, like he literally plastered the names on a building in Times Square or something like that. Like that's good.
That might be good. That might be a good thing too.
All right. Well, anyway, this is on troopers.ny.gov. This is the New York State Crime Gun Report. And we talked about before how we wanted more information than this, right? I actually drafted a version of this bill. And so, when courts or whoever will say, well, what do the drafters intend? I can tell you because I was sitting there writing this, right? I wanted more data than this. I wanted a list of every gun. Now you can take private information away. I don't need names of victims necessarily, but a list of the guns one by one, and next to each gun, if you have that information, I wanted the state of origin of the gun. We're not getting that so far. What we're getting is a one-page PDF giving a summary of where the guns are coming from. So one thing that's interesting on here is they do have a top 10 county countdown. Remember how David Letterman used to have this countdown on his show?
Right.
They got a gun countdown on here. And you do see, this is interesting, right? You do see Nassau County and Suffolk County, New York, at the top of the list. Now, not New York City, right? These are Long Island counties. But New York does maintain its presence on this list. So that's something we need to point out to be fair, right? These guns, at least
well, this is at least the list is saying that these are the places where they purchase.
right.
Does this mean it's origin though?
This is where the gun was originally purchased.
Okay.
Yeah. However, I want to mention on this list, we have 3 counties from Georgia on here, right? The number 3 county is Clayton County, Georgia. You got Cobb County, Georgia by Atlanta. You got Gwinnett County, Georgia. And then you've got a Florida county on here as well, Orange County, Florida, which I believe is the Orlando area. Was that correct? You know better than me, Jay.
Wait, which one?
Orange County, is that Orlando?
That's Orange County? It's either Orlando or Miami area.
Miami is Dade, Miami-Dade County.
Right.
I think it's Orlando area. And then you have Virginia Beach, Virginia on here as well. So these are guns used in crimes in New York, right?
Right.
But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of the 10 counties are outside New York. Again, where the guns were originally purchased. And they're in states where it's easy to purchase a gun, right? We talked about the school shooting. The school shooting happened in Georgia, right? 3 of the top 10 counties are Georgia counties. 3 of the top 10. And you got Florida and Virginia on there as well. So, and then you have counties, by the way, in New York. These are not New York City counties. We know New York City has strict gun laws. These are counties upstate or Long Island where the gun laws aren't quite as strict as in New York City. So is that a coincidence? Is anyone going to sit here and tell me, well, it's a pure coincidence that most of the guns that are used to commit crimes in New York City come from outside the city? Oh, that's pure speculation and coincidence. It just so happens that they all come from counties and from states where it's easier to buy them. Is anyone going to sit here with a straight face and tell me that that's true? That there's no correlation?
There's no correlation.
There's no correlation?
No, there's none.
Just a complete coincidence.
It is coinky dink.
Coinky dink. That's the word. Yeah, it's a coincidence.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's what we're dealing with here. All right. I mean, I think it's useful to have this data. Like I said, I would like more of it than this and just this 1-page summary and David Letterman style countdown. But
now on the page where you found this summary, is there more data, more information, or is
no, not as far as I see. It's on the, let's see. Let me tell you where it's.
I'm on the site and you're right. It's I can't find where it's at.
So you got to start on troopers.ny.gov, right? This New York State Police.
Right.
And I think I went down to the sitemap. This is how crazy, how hard it is to find this. You go to the sitemap. Now you have a list of all these different links of things on the site, right?
Right.
Publications, New York State Police publications. And you scroll down, and then you see quarterly crime gun report, first quarter
I
2020.
see. I see.
So it seems like it's just that one page. Let me see if I hit download. Yeah, that's the same thing. Okay, I thought download might have been more data. No, it's just this PDF. It's a nice little one-page PDF summary.
Right. Yeah, they're kind of like halfway putting in effort here.
The one thing that you do see, aside from breaking down, let's see, top 10. Okay, so they got the top 10 purchase county and state, right? That's what we just talked about. They also have recovered firearms by county, and they give you a whole map of New York State, and then they show you, this is actually kind of cool to look at, county by county throughout New York, how many guns were recovered from a crime in each of those counties. And you do see, let's see, Kings County is number one on the list. That's Brooklyn. The Bronx is number two on the list, it looks like. Queens looks like it's number
Number
four.
three. Number
No, but there's
three.
one that's 116. You see that 116 in upstate? That looks like it might be like maybe Erie County. That might be Buffalo.
Um,
That's 116. So that beats Queens by two guns.
wait, where do you see that?
It's a dark blue county. If you just go look up
Oh yeah, I see it. I see it.
of the chart there. Yeah,
Yeah.
that might be the Buffalo area
I wonder why they didn't. I guess they were just marking off.
because it's smaller. I think the New York City ones.
Yeah, they were just marking off the New York City results instead of the state results.
Right, because all the New York City counties are kind of jam packed in that small area. But
Yeah.
regardless, you see where the guns are coming from in terms of where they recovered. Yes, Kings County, the Bronx, Queens, very high numbers, right, compared to the rest of the state. But do you see any of those counties on the list of counties of origin where the guns were purchased? Not one. Think about that, right? Kings
Mm.
County, the Bronx, Queens have 163, 151, 114, right? You're talking about hundreds of guns. Was that like 500, almost 500 guns there between the three of them? And by far outnumber the rest of the state in terms of guns recovered. However, you don't see any of those counties anywhere on the top 10 list of where the guns were purchased.
Right.
Coincidence? I mean, when people say that gun laws don't do anything, what does this say? Hold on. You know what? Hold on.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
This all I got right now is a bottle. I need this is a soda bottle, seltzer bottle. It's not going to do the trick. Hold on.
No chicken. Where's the chicken? Yeah, I think you're just making all of this up. It's in your head. Um, you know, this proves nothing. You're just you're reaching. That's what they say.
All right. Well, to anyone who says that, you, my friend, get the rubber chicken of the week.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I would assume they have more information, more data. I wonder why they don't make it available to the public.
Yeah.
But maybe there's
Well,
uh,
I honestly I think that they're making as much data as they need to available. I think they're doing
right,
as as they think they can get away with, basically.
right. So, all right. Well, wow.
But yeah, I think it is worth following up, and if it's a matter of amending the law, maybe we need to make that more clear. I think
Right.
we at one point actually read the law as written and believe that even as written, they're not giving enough information. I think we did
Hmm.
that on the show once.
Right.
So maybe it's just a matter of holding their feet to the fire on it.
There's one here, and maybe I need to read this uh, through more clearly, but in the top part, the criminal gun clearinghouse summary,
Mhm.
anytime a gun is comes into possession of law enforcement and was used or believed to have been used in commission of a crime, it's reported to the criminal gun clearinghouse, which is managed by the New York State Police.
Mhm.
And then it lists the type of guns that came in. So there was a total of 1,270 that were brought in and which were believed to have been used or used in a crime.
Right.
And of that 1,270, 330 of those guns were New York State police guns.
New York, I did see that. Yeah, New York State police guns.
How are police, either is police committing crimes or they're losing their guns
Right, right. Or
to the
someone
tune of
is taking the gun from the police.
330 seems like an awfully high number.
But we need some clarification on that, right? Because we got New York State police guns, we've got privately made firearms, we've got handgun on New York permit.
Now,
What are
that's
the
another
categories?
interesting.
Are they actually police guns, or what does that actually mean?
That's well, according to this, if we're reading it correctly in the way it's presented here, then of the submissions, 330 of them were New York State police guns that it made its way into some sort of criminal activity. Now,
Or
there's
right, or I mean, I would like to get more clarification on what that means. Could it mean a gun that has been recovered by the New York State police somehow?
that it's not clear. And I do see some data here. Privately made firearms is one thing, but handguns on permit. So there is an argument to be said here that this low number of 88 could say that people who are legally uh have legal possession of a firearm commit crimes less, or
Yeah,
they're
88.
using them responsibly.
Right, right. Not 88%, 88 of the 1270, right? Is that what we're looking at?
88 of the 1270. And I guess to really know what percentage that is, you'd have to know how many handguns total are on NY permit to see how big this or how
Right.
small this is. But it
But you
does
do
look
the
like
percentage of 88 into 1270 to see how many of the crime guns were
right.
guns. Yeah, and I think a lot of those tend to be domestic disputes, right? That's what you hear. That when someone
Just
has
what
a
you hear.
lawful gun
Right.
at a home or whatever, right? It ends up either being used for suicide or to shoot your own partner or something like that.
Yeah, but 330 New York State police guns, if I'm reading it correctly, is very concerning.
And yeah, I really wonder what that means. You know what? Maybe we should actually contact them and ask what that means.
Right, because does that mean that these are police guns that found their way to the street? Does this mean that these were police officers that committed crimes? Does this mean
Does it mean guns that were somehow recovered by the state troopers?
it's something like that? And they submitted
Right,
the
right,
guns.
right.
Um,
This is a quarter. We're talking about like a quarter of all crimes here. You think a
right,
quarter of all crimes were committed with actual police members' guns? That's kind of crazy.
right. So that needs to be cleared up.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
yeah,
Or
we should find out. We should find
yeah,
out if that
so
is.
how are these guns being recycled to the system? I mean, that could be the problem also. Maybe,
Yeah.
'cause we saw that Nassau and Suffolk had the highest number within New York State, right? Is it
Yeah.
possible that they're selling guns that were originally police guns? That would be crazy. I don't know.
All right. So yeah, we should find out.
We should definitely get some clarity on that point. So yeah, I think you know what, it's worth contacting them on a few of these different points that we've raised and see what they say.
Yep. Sounds
So
good.
all right,
So
we want to
you had
wrap
the
up,
bottom line.
but before we do that, I do want to really quickly uh, pick a winner of the Bring Raucous Back T-shirt contest.
Right, right.
So I did put this on TikTok. For those who want to see more of my hip hop content, I've been posting it to TikTok, right? I like to have a place where people can go to look for different things, right? I don't want to confuse people. If you're looking for my political stuff, my community stuff, I don't want to have too much music stuff on there because I'm like, that's not what I'm looking for. Conversely, for the music folks, right? If you want to see more music stuff, go to TikTok. So that's where I've been doing it. I did put out a TikTok saying that I would give a Bring Raucous Back t-shirt away to a random commenter on that video. And I got to shout out Michael Rappaport for liking that video randomly. And Michael Rappaport, that's like a real New York thing, right? New York going through. So I know he's into raucous hip hop, raucous style hip hop. So that's cool. So let's do this now. I've got a random number generator out here, and I'm gonna pull up the TikTok, and I'm gonna use this for a later TikTok to announce the winner. So we're multitasking here.
Okay.
See. All right. So let's do it right now. Thank you all for participating in the Bring Rockets Back t-shirt giveaway. We're going to be picking a random winner right now. I'm going to use a random number generator. So let's put this in right now. Drum roll, please. Let's see who wins the Bring Rockets Back t-shirt. All right. We've got, let's pull this up. Make sure that we're doing this right.
Oh man, I already stopped the drum roll.
Yeah, no, we got it. We got a number. Now I'm getting the name to coincide with the number. Christophe Oneg Bernard. Christophe Oneg, or is that zero neg? Christophe Bernard, you win the Bring Rockets Back t-shirt. Congratulations. I will be contacting you for your information and your t-shirt size, and we'll get that to you. For anyone who did not win but would like one, they are available for purchase as well. And we appreciate all the support.
Sounds good.
Congratulations to Christophe.
Yep, sure.
All right. So is it time for the bottom line?
Time for the bottom line. And you had an idea for the bottom line.
Yeah. I would say, and you know what? It's apropos going into the debate as well, right? I would say it is disappointing when we don't achieve all of the progress that we want right away. And I understand when people are frustrated by the idea of incrementalism, and they'll say things like, well, we've dealt with it for so long, now we need radical change. I hear that, but we do live in a democracy, and knock on wood that we get to keep it, right? And so oftentimes, you can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. You've got to keep fighting. If you make progress, don't look at that as a failure. Look at that as movement in the right direction. Yeah, sometimes it's slower than we want it to be, but if we keep pushing, we'll get there. We'll keep getting that boulder up the hill.
I think that's well said. And they can find us on YouTube at Nuance Show and everywhere podcasts are available. Come in, comment, give your opinion, argue, fight, do all of that stuff, but have the discussion and look for that nuance as well.
Yes, as always, we've got work to do, but we'll catch you next time. Thanks for tuning in.